Hey, how's it going? I would like to show how science affirms the Bible, where science is a systematic process that anybody can follow to gain knowledge of the physical world, the physical plane. I believe in miracles. I believe in the works of Jesus Christ. I believe in the Trinity. I believe in the atonement of Jesus Christ and his resurrection. And I believe God created everything and that he reveals knowledge. The same type of knowledge that we can uncover through our works, our toils in science. I know that science can be used in an ungodly way to boast the pride of man. I see science as a technology, and if that technology is in ungodly hands, it can be used for evil, or it could be used for God's glory. And if that knowledge is used in what can be done, um, it's probably not being used for what ought to be done. So Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So in the beginning is Bereshit, which in other verses of the Bible, it says that I am the beginning and the end, and the beginning is also Bereshit. So the beginning can be used as a reference to Jesus. So instantly, the first three words of the Bible, Jesus. And God. In the beginning, God. The earth was without form. This is verse 2. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. So there's a lot to unpack here. This language is very dense. So let's go back to the beginning where it says God created the heavens. The word heavens in Hebrew is ha-shemayim. And shemayim has another word in it, mayim, which is the word for waters. So this heavens has an inherent nature of having a water characteristic. Well, what is water? What are the characteristics of water? The main characteristic is that it is fluid, okay? And the earth. The word for earth in this scenario, in this text, is aretz. And in the ancient Hebrew language, there is no planetary concept. That knowledge was not revealed to the ancient peoples. So whenever you see the word for land, ground, or earth, it is all the same word, aretz, which is kind of similar to what we call it today, earth. The earth, aretz, was without form and void. Tohu vabohu. It is formless. It is empty. It is chaotic. It is pure Brownian physics. Literally particles floating in a fluid. And darkness, koshek. Literally darkness. In some aspects, it's unknowable. In spiritual terms, it is used as misery or death. Was over the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering. Rahab. Rahab. Rahab means to brood, like a bird brooding its nest. It can mean guiding, to move gently, to cherish over the face of the waters. And waters is Ma'im. Okay, so what does this all mean in context? Now that we have a understanding of what it means in the Hebrew to an ancient peoples. So in this context, God created the heavens and the earth. So this heaven is the space heaven. A lot of the terminology for the sky or the higher above space is called the heavens, where the sun and moon sit, or where birds fly. They use the same word, but in this case, this heaven is space. And it's being compared to water. You know, God was hovering over the face of the waters, which is a very good comparison because how do you explain what space is like to an ancient people? You call it water. You know, water is fluid, space is fluid. You are weightless in water, you're weightless in space. And it's deep. You know, we can also agree that it's deep. But the amazing thing here is that the accuracy of the description of the things that we know now of space, that's phenomenal. That's amazing. Literally a miracle in the first two verses. And so what it says is that the beginning, God creates the heavens. He creates the actual structure of space. And then he creates matter. Uh, you know, the earth is made out of everything else that all the universe is made out of. And we know that it's talking about the very beginning of what we call the Big Bang. So first off, the Big Bang model is just a model. Um, it helps us conceive what is being talked about. And as knowledge comes about, you know, the model may change as time goes on. As new evidence appears, it will, you know, be placed into the model accordingly. And the Big Bang model was also made by Georges Lemaitre. He was a scientist during Einstein's time, and he worked hand in hand at times with him. But Lemaitre was also a priest, so he believed in God as well. And besides mathematical equations, the first evidence came up in the 1960s with the discovery of the cosmic microwave background, which was light that was emitted, scientists say, 380,000 years after the Big Bang. And we can observe the remnants to get a little sneak peek of what went on beforehand. And the model states that everything was minuscule in a tiny dot, very dense, hot dot, not allowing light to escape, or mass, or matter, or particles. Nothing was escaping. And it was very chaotic. And currently, this model is under research. Back in 2024, there was research done suggesting that dark matter was also present beforehand as well. And then it expanded. The energy to expand achieved the crossing of the threshold of the energy level. And what was there? There was darkness, there was dark matter, there was particles, the things that make up an atom, and with the expansion there was space and the creation of the heavens. So now let's compare and contrast what that says, what that model says, to the word in the chronological order. So God created the heavens and the earth. So all of mass and matter, all of the earth is all created out of atoms. The earth was without form and void. So it was chaotic, right? And that little mass, the earth, well, the particles, it's so chaotic, the it's not even an atom yet. And darkness was over the face of the deep. So dark matter was present, no light. And do we know what dark matter is today? No, we still don't. So that's still in line with what the text says. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. And the Spirit of God was hovering, meaning guiding, right? So God's Spirit was guiding this process of these particles being there, of the energy being available. Maybe God's Spirit, is providing the energy, because we don't necessarily know that detailed portion of what energy is. And it was hovering over the face of the waters, meaning God's Spirit is guiding this process. Now, theologically, I think one can read that and say that by studying the science, by studying the natural realm, you are studying the characteristics of what God's Spirit has done in a real, physical, measurable way. Because right there in black and white, it says God's Spirit was guiding this process. So, therefore, the toilings in science in discovering the natural realm is a form of worship to God. By having this unbiased process of scientific research and thinking, it is a form of worship to God, because we will find truth, and when you search for truth, you will find Jesus and God and the Holy Spirit. Now, the expansion portion of the Big Bang model is not necessarily present within the creation uh, story, but the Bible, in at least two places, in Isaiah and in Psalms, uh, talk about stretching out the heavens like a tent. Now, it is poetic, metaphorical language, but it is saying that he is stretching out the heavens, which that is what is happening, and it is comparing it to like a tent, like you pitch a tent. How do we know the universe is being stretched? So light waves have this property of shifting its frequencies to the observer based on whether it is shifting closer or further away. We call this redshift, blue shift. And what emits light out in the universe? Stars. So we can measure this movement of stars and galaxies and nebula, whether they are moving closer or further away. This is the Doppler effect. And Hubble, back in 1929, noticed that distant galaxies were moving faster. Based on this redshift, blue shift Doppler effect, they were moving faster and further away, showing a higher frequency in the redshift, which means that they are going further. So this expansion is seen today. Verse 3: And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. verse 4. And God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. So let's understand it in the Hebrew. So let there be light. Light in Hebrew is or, and it literally means light. And it has a spiritual or metaphorical use for life, right? And God saw that the light was good. Good means tov, and it literally means fine, well, like good. Agreeable. And God separated the light from the darkness. Light is or, darkness is kashik. God or Elohim, I haven't been saying that, called the light day, which is yom, which is the, like, it can mean a 24-hour day, or it can mean like the day, like how it is explaining itself, like the light of the day, like differing from night. Or day, yom, can mean a period of time, like the day of the Lord, or how we use the word back in my day. It can be a general use of a time period, but in this use it is meaning light. And he called the darkness night, which is layil. And if you notice, the language shows a duality, a difference of night and day, or a in a spiritual sense, a day can mean a good time, or a night, layil, can mean a troubling time. And there was evening, arev. Arev is a cultural word. It has a connotation of a time of change. In the language of Hebrew, it is used as an anticipatory time. There's a lot of potential to change, but it means evening. And there was morning, boker. In the Hebrew language, boker means morning, but it has this connotation of breaking of darkness into light. So the change has been made. The first day. Yom, day, meaning in this period of time. Now let's put it into context. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw that the light was good. So you know how we like things that are like us. They are agreeable to us. I like science and I like God. I think both things are good, and that says something about me. Likewise, God liking the light says something about his character. And God separated the light from the darkness. So in this text, it is saying that there's the light comes out of the darkness, right? Like the darkness of the mass, or the chaos, the chaos dot expanding, the light comes out of that from the mass. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning the first day. So there's a separation of day and night, right? Darkness will not be in the same presence of light. Light will overtake the darkness. I can't explain black holes. Uh, I'm just lost there. For those of you that don't know, it seems to our eyes that black holes take in the light and there's no escape from it. Um, yeah, I'm not exactly sure. Someone smarter than me, let me know. Like, are black holes made out of dark matter, or are they a totally separate substance? I'm not sure if I will ever get the answer in my lifetime, but like the Bible says, there is a mystery around the darkness. So God separated the day from the night, and we went over the spiritual relevance with the language portion. And there was an evening, there was a close to this event. There was a mixing of light and dark. There was potential for change. And there was morning. This process eventually changed. There was a breakthrough into the next day, but that happened on the first day. Now let's apply the scientific knowledge that we have to this. So we got through the expansion, and after the expansion, particles were able to organize themselves. Particles in as the things that make up the elements of the atom. So all the particles from the beginning, the things like the bosons and leptons and quarks, the things that make up the neutrons and the electrons, protons, these particles come together and form those. And whenever those are formed, still having the particles left over, those still exist. The creation of the new substance does not delete the old substance. Those can come together, the protons, neutrons, and electrons, those can come together and create atoms. This whole thing is what the Bible is referring to as the earth. It is what everything is made up of. And remember, this is God's Spirit guiding this. The complexity increased. The complexity increased at a local stage, but not universally. As complexity increases, it doesn't delete the old stage. And, as these particles are combining into atoms, essentially, a lot of processes are happening. There's adhesion, there's molecular forces going on. There's energy being dispersed, causing light. As this expansion continues, there's quantum entanglement occurring. It is showing that energy is directly related to the particles and the atoms. They directly inherit energy by existing in this space. You could say in a biblical way that this is God's Spirit guiding. And as it creates the first atom, hydrogen, then the hydrogen can combine with other hydrogen and create a cloud. And in this cloud, it can create a focal point of energy because gravity is a thing. You've got molecular forces at work attracting them together as well. You've got gravity and molecular forces. And sometimes they're creating helium. And eventually at that focal point, the energy needed to cause a reaction occurs as mass gets denser and denser. And fusion can occur. Atomic fusion can occur, creating the first bits of a star, a protostar. And as this protostar gains more mass, it'll increase in energy, allowing for atoms to cross into a solid state, lithium. And this mass will allow dust to orbit around the center star. And as solid states keep on combining and creating bigger atoms, such as carbon, the most prolific element that is here on Earth, carbon, the solid states will combine together and create small masses like rocks and things that we call comets and asteroids. And those will combine together and create planets. And they will have a stable orbit around the sun. Now, all of that is not explained explicitly in the text, but that is what we have found to be true. And it fits within the text. let there be light, and the sun came. Now, I'm not going to get all the way into the next text. This is where the first episode will end, and on the first day. But for the final portion, let's go ahead and compare and contrast the scientific model with the text. I kind of already did it. So when God said, let there be light, and there is light, showing the power of God, in these few words, all of this processes happened. And it fits right in line with day one of the Bible. Darkness, particles, the earth, dark matter, being form and void, it was chaotic, beyond the comprehension of the ancient Hebrew people, the ancient Jews. And then light came in the form of atomic fusion, and that turned into stars. And that's what God calls the first day. This whole process, this is the first time period, showing God's great magnitude of power, unthinkable power. That was the first day. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you want to support me, leave a like, comment down below, subscribe. This video has taken me a long time to make. It seems this is a culmination of my life studies. I hope this video blesses you. Have a good day. I'm editing this, and I did not put this in on the day that I first recorded. So essentially, the first portion of the text, verses 1 and 2 on the first day, are setting up the pieces, of the puzzle, of the play, if you will. And verses 3 and the rest of the text is essentially everything going into motion.